Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je suis honorée de prendre la parole aujourd'hui à la Chambre pour parler de mon projet de loi. Le projet de loi C-238, loi modifiant le Code criminel, ordonnance de restitution. Every day in Canada, community organizations step in to support those affected by crime. They save lives, counsel survivors, and help families and neighborhoods rebuild. Yet, the very people who absorb the cost of those crimes have no formal place in restitution. Bill C-238 changes that. It ensures that when an offender is held accountable, communities that bear the harm can share in the repair, and recognizes community harm as part of justice itself. This bill comes from a simple but powerful idea that justice should recognize not only the individual victim, but also the communities that bear the weight of the harm. Across Canada, our cities, our towns, and our First Nations are on the front lines of two intertwined crises: organized crime and the opioid epidemic. The human toll is heartbreaking, but there is also a quiet, grinding cost that falls on the shoulders of community organizations, shelters, counseling services, and harm reduction sites, addiction programs, and first responders. Every day, they pick up the pieces after an overdose, after a trafficking rescue, after a family is shattered. They provide care, compassion, and safety, often with too few resources and too little recognition. Meanwhile, those convicted of drug trafficking or human trafficking often profit from the suffering that they cause. Il est tout à fait approprié de nos tribunaux disposent d'un moyen clair pour ordonner la restitution aux personnes qui aident les victimes à reconstruire leur vie. Under Section 738 of the Criminal Code, judges already have discretion to order restitution payments made by an offender to compensate for losses. That restitution is rightfully given to individual victims. Let me be clear, Bill C-238 does not change that principle. It strengthens it. It clarifies and expands who can receive restitution in certain cases. In cases of drug or human trafficking, courts would be able to order restitution directly to a community organization that provide frontline services and can show that it incurred measurable expenses because of that crime. This could include emergency shelters and medical services, harm reduction and overdose prevention programs, security measures for staff and clients, counseling for workers exposed to trauma, or additional staffing or training to meet these surging demands. This bill builds on existing judicial tools. It does not require new government spending. It simply gives courts a clearer signal from Parliament that restitution can and should flow where harm is proven and where recovery begins. This is a bill about justice with purpose, about pragmatic compassion. Punishment alone cannot heal the damage caused by trafficking or addiction. But when an offender is required to contribute directly to repairing that harm, when restitution helps fund the very services that support victims, justice becomes tangible. Cela contribue à rétablir la confiance, à restaurer la dignité et à montrer aux victimes et aux fournisseurs de services que le système judiciaire les prend en considération. In my community of Sudbury, I have met with police, outreach workers, addiction counselors, and victim service agencies. They told me, in plain words, that the current system leaves community responders invisible. At our meeting with Chief Sarah Cunningham of the Greater Police Service, she told me that Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police has already discussed this bill and views it as a good and timely effort that will have a real impact across Ontario. Elle a fait remarquer que même si les produits de crime peuvent parfois être affectés au service d'aide aux victimes, les ressources restent limitées. Elle a souligné que les groupes communautaires tels que Angels of Hope sont des partenaires essentiels dans le processus de rétablissement et ont besoin de financement plus régulier. Ali Farouk, who runs the Go Give project and operates Sudbury's Warming Centre, shared his support for this bill. His organization recently had to hire 30 additional staff to stay open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He said plainly, "We're doing everything we can, but we need fair ways to recover costs directly tied to the crimes that we respond to every day." And at Angels of Hope, an organization supporting victims and survivors of human trafficking, staff told me they were pleased to see this bill introduced. Their team, made up of survivors themselves, work in difficult conditions with limited short-term grants. As one worker put it, funding ends, but the trauma doesn't. They reminded me that Sudbury, Thunder Bay, and Niagara are hotspots for trafficking, and that too many victims have nowhere safe to go once they're rescued. These are the voices behind Bill C-238. They are not asking for charity. They are asking for fairness, for the ability to recover costs directly tied to the crimes themselves. The preamble of this bill affirms what Parliament already recognizes, that crimes like drug and human trafficking have far-reaching community impacts, that acknowledging and repairing community harm is a legitimate objective of sentencing, and that frontline organizations should have a clear legal pathway for restitution from offenders. This is fully consistent with the principles of proportionality, accountability, and reparation, already embedded in our sentencing framework. Elle s'aligne également sur la Charte canadienne des droits des victimes, qui garantit aux victimes le droit de demander réparation et de voir leurs pertes reconnues par le tribunal. Across Canada, municipalities and service agencies are struggling to absorb the costs of the opioid crisis. According to Health Canada data, more than 38,000 Canadians have died of apparent opioid toxicity since 2016. Behind every number are families, paramedics, and community workers who respond to tragedy again and again. In Sudbury, the police service reported a record number of overdose calls last year, and local shelters are often at capacity. Bill C-238 does not change the standard of proof or judicial discretion. It simply directs what the restitution is considered for trafficking offenses. The court may include frontline organizations if they demonstrate specific, reasonable costs resulting from the crime. Eligible expenses are practical and narrow. Medical supplies, security, counseling, and other operational costs that can be verified by receipts or financial statements. These preserves judicial independence while giving meaning to the concept of community harm. This proposal also reflects modern thinking about restorative justice. Restitution is not only about money, it's about accountability. It allows an offender to take part in a very concrete way in repairing the damage they caused. For many victims and service providers, that recognition matters as much as the funds themselves. It sends a message that justice is not blind to the broader human impact of crime. In Northern Ontario and across the country, frontline workers often feel invisible to the justice system. They see that the same individuals cycle through addiction, arrest, and relapse. They bear the secondary trauma, yet the system treats them as bystanders. This bill tells them, we see you, we value you, and we will empower courts to recognize your losses. Some might ask whether expanding restitution eligibility could reduce what is available to individual victims. It will not. Individual victims remain the first priority. This bill simply adds another category of possible recipients, allowing judges to decide fairly based on the facts of each individual case. Others might ask whether this will create new bureaucracy or costs. It will not. Restitution orders are offender-paid. Aucun nouveau programme gouvernemental ni financement supplémentaire n'est nécessaire. Le processus existe déjà. Nous veillons simplement à ce que les communautés touchées par la traite se soient pas laissées pour compte. Some may also ask why the bill focuses only on drug and human trafficking. The answer is precision. These are crimes that inflict measurable, cascading harm and are linked to organized networks that exploit people and communities for profit. En ciblant ces infractions spécifiques, le projet de loi reste ciblé et efficace, s'attaquant aux exemples les plus flagrants de préjudice causés à la communauté. Local police, frontline agencies, and victims of support organizations in Sudbury and across Northern Ontario have expressed strong support. One outreach coordinator told me, this bill gives us hope that the justice system will finally acknowledge what we live every day. Restitution orders are not a silver bullet, but they are a tool that can complement other efforts such as treatment, prevention, and law enforcement. They reinforce a simple truth. When harm is done, repair should follow. In clarifying that restitution can extend to community organizations, we strengthen local capacity, we reinforce public confidence, and we promote offender accountability in a practical and a restorative way. This bill is about bringing the justice system closer to the communities it serves. It is about recognizing that safety and recovery are shared responsibilities. When courts are empowered to acknowledge community harm, they also acknowledge community resilience, the courage of those who keep showing up, shift after shift, to heal others. Madam Speaker, Bill C-238 is a modest but meaningful change. It builds on what already works in our justice system. It asks no more of taxpayers and no less of offenders. It ensures that restitution serves its true purpose, to help victims and communities heal. I am proud to bring forward legislation that reflects both compassion and accountability. I believe members on all sides can agree that the cost of these crimes should not rest solely on the shoulders of those already struggling to respond. The principle is simple. Those who profit from harm should contribute to the repair. To my colleagues, I say this: let's stand together for justice that restores as well as punishes. Let's give our judges a clearer path to support the organizations holding our communities together. And let's send a message to every community across Canada that Parliament hears them, values them, and is willing to act. Montrons aux Canadiens que le Parlement les écoute, les apprécie, et nous sommes prêts à agir. Merci. Thank you.